Hey there friends, what's up? Kevin here from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing the 11th studio album from this artist who, honestly, I was surprised he released an album in 2020 and had to come out on 9/11. This is our review of We Are Chaos by Marilyn Manson. So before we get started, please follow MSOTD Rocks on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you can get these 30-second song of the day preview every single day to get, an increased look at music, both older and newer, between 2000 to today. You can also connect with us on those places, comment all our stuff. We ask you so many questions. And on our Instagram page specifically, we have our IGTV videos, which is behind the scenes look every single Tuesday night at what we're doing here, and our Wednesday live streams at 9 p.m. Central every single Wednesday night. And it's an hour. You come talk to us. We have a lot of fun on those, so please join us for those and follow all those places. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel, because not only do you get these album reviews, you get the Kevin Figures Out to, so I try and figure out if I like a certain band or not that I'm not that well versed in. You also get our top 10 list, our emerging bands in the scene videos, and of course, towards the end of the year, our year-end awards, which are always a lot of fun and always seem to cause a lot of controversy. And on this YouTube channel, you can also watch the videos for the Chord Progression podcast. It is our very own podcast where we are interviewing the emerging bands in the rock and metal scene. They're going to be the biggest bands come the end of the decade, and we have a lot of great episodes on there for you guys. You can watch our interviews and listen to our interviews with bands like Throw the Fight, Awake at Last, Black Tom Mojo. We have Kill the Lights coming up soon, so we got a lot of great stuff there. For the podcast, you can watch the podcast here on this YouTube channel, or you can listen on Spotify, Podcast, Google Play, and iHeart Radio. Links in the description below for everything. Follow and subscribe to everything. Give me a like, dislike, whatever you want to do. Rate everything. It helps me out no matter what it is. So let's get to the video. So a little bit of background on Marilyn Manson before we get going into this from his most previous album. His previous album, Heaven Upside Down, came out in 2017 and had a Metacritic score of 71 out of 100, which is mostly positive reviews. And when Laura ranked the top rock albums of the decade, this one came in at 35, with Burn Villain, his 2012 release, coming in at 24, and Pale Emperor coming in at number 6, which came out in 2015. So you can see that in his 2010 albums, according to Loudwire, Heaven Upside Down was the worst one. But for me, that's like comparing like Rise Against the Anti-Flag and Pennywise. I mean, all three were good, according to Loudwire, but one's got to be at the bottom, It's like really good, good. That's just kind of how it works, so yeah. So now going into We Are Chaos, which was announced in late July of 2020 and had the release date of 9/11/2020, and I looked at it, I thought, this is definitely a Manson move here. This is calculated. This makes a lot of sense for him, so I'm really excited for this. When it comes to the sound of this album, he said it was going to be a little bit different than what you had previously expected, because he was working with producer Scooter Johnson, who was more of like a country fling to him. So he said you're going to hear a lot more of like a southern rock feel, maybe some Rolling Stones, just something different that was in there. And when it comes to the overall theme of this album, Manson said himself that this is going to be like a wax museum and an unboxing of the thoughts he has in his mind and all the darkness that's in it. So you're really going to get an in-depth look at what Marilyn Manson is feeling and thinking at this current moment. Now, before I jump into this, really, I've never been the biggest fan of Manson music, and the reason for that is just because I never really got into it as much. Had I been really listening to this stuff, like, when I was a lot littler, like when I was like growing up before I hit high school, when Manson was a lot more popular in terms of the overall scene, yeah, I probably would have gotten into it a little bit more, because I do like songs, especially like The Beautiful People. I really do like that sound, but I never really got into Manson much after that. So this is going to be interesting. I'm excited. Let's go. So the first we're looking at the composition, construction, indentation on We Are Chaos. And when I took a look at it, yes, this definitely does have a little bit of a different Manson vibe to it, where it doesn't sound like his classic, more industrial rock and more rock kind of style. When I looked at it and really listened to it, a lot of the songs had more of this melodic and alternative feel to it, and more of like a soundscape style to it. So it was a lot different, and what this really reminded me of was David Bowie. So when you take a listen to this album, you're gonna get a lot of those Bowie influences in there, a lot of those different soundscapes, all those different abstract kind of feeling sounds as well. And I do understand where he's coming from with this, just due to the fact that if you're going to be going with something different and you're going to be looking into the mind, it kind of is cool to have a little more of that cosmic feel to it. So it does make sense that Manson would go this kind of route. Plus, it's David Bowie. I mean, who doesn't like Bowie? But did this kind of composition, construction, instrumentation really work out for Manson on this? And in my opinion, it's a little bit of half and half. So there are times where this kind of more Bowie influenced soundscape kind of stuff really did work out. And take a look at the titular song, We Are Chaos, where you get this more like acoustic guitar feel that then brings in these more like, what I say, it was like supernova, like supersonic soundscapes kind of in there that really lets you get into this like subspace feel that lets you enter Manson's mind and really get to feel what he is trying to understand. And I really do like this because in the overall scheme of things, this does come off as rather powerful and really it helps achieve what Manson is trying to get in. I'll get into more of that later. The other song I really like in this aspect is a song like Keep My Head Together, because we start with more of like this hard rock drum line and more of like some down-tuned guitar as well. So we really get a much heavier feel from Manson at this given point. And I really do like how this sounds because now we're getting more of that heavier style that we're kind of used to from Manson, a little more of a darker kind of feel towards it, but also still has that cosmic feel that you're getting inside his head and really understanding what he's thinking within this song. So I do like what he does on here. However, there are times in this album where I'm like, oh, this doesn't necessarily work out in my opinion. Take a look at a song like Solve Coagula. I looked at it and when I broke it down, a lot of these different pieces in this song really do work well on their own because it sounds like he's creating this like industrial rock ballad, which is rather cool because you do have some heavier drumming in there and it's a little bit more of an interesting kind of tweak to the sound. However, where I find this falls flat is because the soundscapes out that Bowie influence in there, what it ends up doing is it ends up creating this longer song that just blends itself really together to where nothing's really separate. It's kind of all one sound consistently going through, and that was something that I wasn't the biggest fan of. I'll take a look at a song like Paint With Your Love because Manson brings in the piano a lot more, and this was interesting, but it all depends upon how it plays off of this more soundscape flowing, again, David Bowie influenced style. And I thought the piano idea was an absolutely incredible idea. However, that consistent Bowie soundscape, I thought really kind of brought the piano down a bit and really ended up being more of like a missed opportunity for Manson on this one. So overall, when it comes to composition, construction, instrumentation, it was something where this was something completely different than I ever expected from Manson because I was still kind of hoping we get some more of that hard rock vibe, some more of that industrial rock, industrial metal vibe that we were hoping for. But we never really got that on this album. He went with something completely different, so I took in a different approach. And there were times where, yes, the more like flowing soundscape, melodic alternative sound that David Bowie influence that he had on this, yeah, there's times where it really did work out well, but there's a lot of times where everything ran together a lot and it just really didn't hit all that well. So for me, this was kind of like a Now time to come with the vocals, and when you take a look at this album, yeah, you're gonna get, again, like with a CCI, the David Bowie influences on this. But when it comes to Manson's vocals, he kind of does the same thing and follows suit. And what I mean by that is, he takes his more melodic style of vocals, clean melodic stuff, and really focuses in a lot on this album. And it does make sense because if he's gonna go with a more melodic style, with this more melodic alternative composition style that the David Bowie influence has on this, yeah, it makes a lot of sense because it really does fit in well. It compromises everything like that really well. But did it work on the tracks? Well, so this did work out a couple of times. Take a look at a song like Keep My Head Together, and when you take a listen to this, this is Manson's most dynamic vocal track on this album. And what I mean by that is when the intro comes in, he has this rougher distortion to his vocals. Then he goes into the verse with more of a melodic style that you'd expect from Manson. And then as the instrumentation picks up a little bit of a heavier style, yeah, it does amp up a little bit more. And I do like it. I do like what he does here because you're getting a little bit more of a different style. Then take a look at the last track, Broken Needle, which is, oh my god, Broken Needle is incredible with his vocals because he keeps that melodic style with a more ballad sense to it in the verses, and he amps up the volume in the chorus as well. But the difference is, from a couple songs we'll talk about next, is when he amps up the volume on these vocals, you can really feel a different vibe off them. The emotion, the drive, the passion behind those vocals are incredible. So yeah, Broken Needle was an absolute smash when it came to Marilyn Manson's vocals. However, there are times where this did work out, and Don't Chase the Dead was one of those times because if you listen to We Are Chaos and Don't Chase the Dead, the vocal style is very similar, but where We Are Chaos really worked out for him, Don't Chase It, it really didn't because it kind of sounded, again, rather bland, like it was just kind of following a pattern, which I do understand, but it was just rather run-of-the-mill in terms that had he gone with a different vocal style like he did with the early 2000s to kind of contrast against that more soundscape style, I thought that could have really worked out well here. Then take a look at the song Halfway and One Step Forward. The piano is a great catalyst that could really bring out a lot of power with a different style of Marilyn Manson vocals, but when he keeps that consistent melodic sense to it, it just is, again, a wasted opportunity with the piano, because I've seen what the guy can do, I've heard what the guy can do, and it can be powerful if he's able to contrast against that piano well. But he plays such a more melodic sense to it that it just really falls flat. So overall, when it comes to the vocals, there were times where Marilyn Manson fell really flat, and it was because he kept a very consistent melodic style that really just made these songs kind of all sound like they ran together a little bit. But there were times where he was able to use that, and with proper instrumentation behind it, it did stick as a standing point. But there are times where he was a little bit more dynamic, and that song Broken Needle, holy crap. That is a great ending to this album. It's a great ballad. So now take a look at the themes and styles of songs on this album and how they all play off with each other. Like I mentioned earlier, when Manson was talking about the theme of this album, it was talking about going into his mind, like seeing the wax museum of his mind, all the darkness that's around it, and all of his thoughts and feelings. So we're gonna get that in the songs. Take a look at a song like We Are Chaos, where he's talking about how he sees himself and how fans really find this comfort in his music and really associate with it, when other people like pop culture kind of see it as more chaotic. Take a look at something like Infinite Darkness, where he's talking about how he feels that a lot of us are just doing the things that we don't want to do in life and are wasting our lives. Then take a look at something like Broken Needle, like talking about the effects that drugs have on people and society. I mean, he really goes in deep, and there's a lot more on this album, but how that play off the styles is the real question. In terms of style, again, I gotta say it's half and half, because there are times where that more soundscape, subspace feel of this melodic alt Bowie sound that he mixes with on his album here, it really does work out well at times, because you're really able to get deeper in design, you're really able to start thinking about these things and feel them the way that Manson does feel about them. However, where I do get lost in the fact that this is very consistent throughout the whole entire thing. And with what Marilyn Manson has gone through in the past and what his music has been with in the past, I was thinking at least some kind of harder style, at least at some points, except for just one or two little bits that really mix it. So like something a little bit more harder, a little bit more industrial, to where the point where you're going to get a little bit more anger across it. Plus, with some of his vocals as well, they really didn't express the full feeling that I would expect on something like this. So that's what I'm going to say, half and half again. Alright, time for my overall rating on We Are Chaos by Marilyn Manson, and it is... I'm going to give We Are Chaos, split straight down the middle, 5 out of 10. So 5 out of 10, that's half and half. What do I like about We Are Chaos? And the first thing I like about it is I like the whole concept behind it, because when you take a look at Marilyn Manson going into it and talking about the wax museum of his mind, letting us into the darkness of that he's really going to let us in, I do like the concept of that due to the fact that we're able to really get in deep with Manson on a different level. And when it came to this whole entire, it's not going to sound the same like all the other albums have, I can get behind that as well, because now you're really seeing a whole different side of Manson that you hadn't necessarily seen before. And we've seen many different sides of Manson. We've seen him in the 90s, we've seen him in the 2000s, we've seen him take on interviewers with incredible class and just destroy the hell out of them. So I love the concept behind this, to see what kind of new things we can get, new feelings we can get from the Marilyn Manson experience. One other thing I really liked about this was the fact that he experimented with the sound that David Bowie had, and the reason I like this is because not many other people are doing that, but using that more soundscape, melodic alt-rock feel to it, you're really able to kind of get in deeper with the mind, you're able to connect a little bit more, and your mind's able to just kind of connect with Manson in a completely different way than he already had. Take a look at something like We Are Chaos, where I absolutely love it because you bring in that Manson vibe, but you also bring in more of a subspace melodic kind of sound that you're going to get a lot of people that really didn't like Manson before because of everything that has happened to him in the past and all the press he got in the past from being the Antichrist superstar. But people are going to listen to this and be like, oh my god, they're going to connect with Manson in a different way. And the fans are connected with Manson in a different way, but still connect with Manson the exact same way. Then take a look at a song like Keep My Head Alive, and oh man, it just kind of get that harder feel to it with a little bit more of a deeper, darker tone, mixed with that Bowie vibe. Yeah, it was good. And then the other thing I like about this album was how they ended with this ballad called Broken Needle, and my god, I thought this was going to be like, oh, you're ending with a ballad, but as I really listened to it, just feeling the emotion that Marilyn Manson played in this album with kind of more of this, again, that industrial ballad feel, but the emotion in his vocals going from that melodic sound and hearing the chorus just amp up the vocals but amp up the emotion as well. I really did like that in this track, and Broken Needle's probably going to be the standout track on this album overall because of how powerful of a track it is. So 5 out of 10, there's got to be things I also dislike about this album, and one thing is the lack of pace. There's a consistent, real melodic, slower pace to this album, and for me personally, this is a personal taste thing. You guys know I love hard rock, punk rock, and metalcore, so there's got to be some pace, there's got to be a lot of energy there. I'm not going to really go deep into the melodic stuff. And on this one, I was hoping that there was going to be some sort of amplitude, even with more of that David Bowie style and influence in there, but I really didn't get a lot of that, and it really kind of brought the album down for me personally. On a song like Perfume, we did get a little bit more of that pacing in there, but that was an exception to the rule. So it was something where, for myself, the lack of a very pacing, especially what I've heard Marilyn Manson be able to do in the past, just didn't really connect super duper well with me personally. The other thing I really didn't like about this album was it kind of is a double-edged sword where I like the idea to go with that more Bowie influence in there to really kind of let you get deep into your mind, but I thought he used it way too much, and due to the fact that there were songs on this album where, yes, it absolutely did work out to really kind of let you in the mind, but there are other times the songs just sounded real melodic and dull and just really didn't have this full-on forceful feeling that I was hoping they had. Take a look at a song like Sol Fuego, where I like the idea where Manson tried to amp everything up, but just that overall electronic vibe to it just really made it sound all completely together and mushed together, and just all this more one sound thing instead of just different parts that you're transitioning through songs. It just sounded like one whole soundscape. Then a song like Paint You With My Love, where you do have this heavier Bowie soundscape in there, which I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, but it just doesn't necessarily hit as hard as something like We Are Chaos did. And what I mean by that is, emotionally, you're gonna feel We Are Chaos. When it comes to Paint You With My Love, I really don't see you hitting with that emotionally, but then again, that's all my take, so take that as you will. Okay, now it's time for my final thought on We Are Chaos by Marilyn Manson. And again, I am completely split on this one. On one hand, I love the idea that Manson went with. I love the fact that he tried using more of this Bowie influence to really let us get deep into his mind and let us see a completely different side of him. I love that idea behind it. What I didn't like was the fact that he stuck so much to it, where he's got so many different influences on that he can work off just from himself as well. And just to play with a little bit more of those in there, I thought would have really worked out, like you make this album a little bit more of a dynamic experience. Sure, there are songs I like We Are Chaos, Infinite Darkness, and Keep My Head Together. I do like those songs, and Broken Needle is an absolutely fantastic ballad. But for the majority of the album, it's like you're gonna get that real Bowie melodic alt-rock soundscape style to it, that after a while, sometimes, you know, some of the songs I just feel like they all run together and are a little bit bland. Do I think this is a good release from Manson though? I think this is a very interesting release that I think a lot of the hardcore fans are going to like, because they're going to get a whole new side of Manson that they didn't know Marilyn Manson could really put out there, even though I knew he had it. But as a fan for myself, am I going to be going back to this album a lot? Probably not. Will I go back to a song like Broken Needle though every now and again? Oh yeah. So I think 5 out of 10 straight down the middle for me, you know? I think that's pretty good. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you follow, subscribe, like, dislike this video, comment what you think about it. I want to get in the conversation with you guys what you think about We Are Chaos by Marilyn Manson. That's going to be it for me. My name is Kevin, and you guys know I know with the hat flip. There goes that. See ya!